Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week, at least when I'm able to get a video out, I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at the third in a series of sci-fi dungeon crawlers that I've taken a look at over the years. Developed and published by Grave Robber Foundation, Der Geisterjäger, or The Ghost Hunter, was released on August 26, 2021. So, pretty recently as per this video. The follow-up to Der Geisterturm and Der Geisterschief, Der Geisterjäger is another wireframe graphics first-person sci-fi dungeon crawler set in the near future of 2075, in which you pilot a mech through building corridors, fighting other mechs, uncovering clues, and improving your mech's skills. It follows the same basic gameplay structure as the earlier portions of the trilogy, but expands upon certain elements to make it feel more like a proper, full-fledged role-playing game. In terms of plot, Der Geisterjäger takes place in the 2070s, after Earth has been rendered a blasted, empty wasteland. The world is now split by competing megacorps who quarrel over remaining territory. You were the pilot of one of the augmented combat suits when you were slain. Now you have been brought to life, and beholden to the corporation that did so, you were sent on a mission to discover what happened to a prior team. Gameplay takes place from a first-person view inside of a combat mech. The central view is dominated by a wireframe view of your immediate surroundings. At the top of the screen is your directional heading. To the right is the mini-map of the local area. To the lower right is your currently equipped weapon, showing its name, current ammunition, its fire mode, your current response to charge setting, your current combat stance, and any access cards that you may have. In the lower left are your more immediately relevant stats, your DC, which serves as your mech's overall structural integrity, your hit points, which are, well, your personal hit points, your energy, which is used for activating shields and certain other attacks, your accuracy with your current weapon and stance, your evasion with the same, and your mech's overall weight. In the upper left is your action menu. These actions are somewhat context sensitive and may have their own sub-menus. You may get additional entries when you're standing in front of a terminal, for instance. But generally speaking, the attack option lets you attack, and before you attack, you may choose whether to advance, retreat, or stay still, which is quite useful with the different weapon types that there are. Analyze lets you analyze enemies to show their various vulnerabilities and resistances, armament, and background. Shield pops up a shield, which damages your enemies when you charge them and reduces damage that you take, but it does consume energy. The unit setup lets you get a status report on your mech's stats, switch your weapon loadout and examine your weapons in detail, switch your combat stance, which affects your accuracy and your evasion, select your ram response, which shows what your mech will do when another mech rams it, and finally your inventory, which lets you access your inventory to use consumable items. The final two options of the main menu let you save and load the game, and end the current run in case you get stuck in a no-win situation. You and your mech as one character have a number of basic stats. There's the unit ID, which is your character's name, designation, your DC, which is basically your armor value, your accuracy, your evasion, your recovery rate, and then your unit's weight, which improves your ramming damage. There's a disarming rating for melee attacks, a booster, which when you get it installed, and then a shield, which may be upgraded to reduce damage taken further. There is a pulse unit, another thing which can be installed as you find it, as well as credits, which are used to buy ammo and improve elements of weapons. There's also the pilot stats specifically, which is your health, your base accuracy, and your evasion, which is modified by what weapons and stances you use, your base recovery, which is used to recover your personal hit points, your pilot's weight within the machine, and then your level, which improves as you do in enemy mechs and explore, and generally increases your ability to accomplish certain tasks, such as disarming things and so forth. Finally, there's your armor rating, per side at least, because you've got your front armor, your side armor, and then your back armor. You have resistances to various types of attack, kinetic attacks, energy attacks, and explosive attacks, as well as chemical attacks and physical attacks. Finally, there's an evasion penalty that can accrue as you take status effects. As far as stats go, your mech has a static loadout of weapons: submachine gun, laser rifle, shotgun, assault rifle, bazooka, and sniper rifle. Each one has a different effective range and attack type. Each weapon has damage, range, accuracy, evasion penalty, weight, stability, and damage type. As you progress in the game, you can upgrade each of these elements except for damage type and weight, although they are upgraded individually on each weapon. For instance, you can boost your submachine gun's accuracy or its damage, etc. as you accumulate credits, and then upgrade your laser rifle according to different parameters. There's also an energy blade that can be used as a high-powered close-range melee attack, but that generally drains your energy with each swing. Gameplay is basically a turn-based, grid-based dungeon crawler. You wander through corridors represented in wireframe, collecting various keycards and upgrades and uncovering clues. There's terminals to review, computers that can activate or deactivate security systems throughout the complex. Some may require you to get keys from throughout the building, not just access cards, but also other items that can be required for, say, repairing a terminal, for instance. As you explore, you can be contacted by your outside leader who will give you updates on your current mission, but gameplay generally has you searching for the elevators to go down to lower levels. If you encounter doors you can't open, you can always try to bash them open by running into them as in earlier entries in the series, or you can cut them down with the energy sword. Furthermore, you can find basically mechanic stations that allow you to heal yourself and your mech, as well as apply armor that you may have found in the particular level, or upgrade your weapons according to the process I described before. Combat is turn-based and seamless within the general exploration method. At first, enemy mechs are unidentified and represented only by appropriately sized boxes. Every time you make a move, the enemies each do so in turn. You eventually will identify a particular enemy in range, after which you can analyze it. Analyzing it will give more information about their general stats, armor setup, and resistances, which can tell you where you are best advised to attack them and with which weapon. It should be noted that different instances of the same enemy can actually have different resistances and armor layouts, so you'll want to analyze each individual enemy as you identify it to find out that particular enemy's weaknesses and strengths. Generally speaking, you can only attack enemies that are in front of you. If you run into an enemy, that is considered a ramming attack and will damage both you and your target, and do slightly more if you have shields up. Beyond that, different weapons have both different damage types and different effective ranges. Some weapons may also have drawbacks. For instance, using the bazooka against something right in front of you is a recipe for disaster, as you blow both yourself and your opponent up, while using a shotgun against something all the way down a hallway is likely to just have you miss a whole bunch. In terms of presentation, the clean wireframe presentation is slightly more detailed than prior entries in the series while maintaining that same sort of retro aesthetic. I like how they actually pay attention to the difference in large mechs, which is something that you're in, as well as normal-sized people. So as you're going down corridors, you can see little doors and such within the bigger doors that are where the humans that are not in combat armor can go through to work. Honestly, I do like these slightly improved visuals, and I found them less migraine-inducing than the first entry into the trilogy. The user interface is minimalist as always, and takes some getting used to navigate, but it's not particularly complex, and, you get used to it. The main issue I had is that if you have to say advance, stay, retreat after every single attack, and I can understand the need for that, I just wish it remembered the last option that you chose, so instead of having to tick it down to stay after every attack with a weapon, I could just hit enter to breeze through. The soundtrack is pretty great as always. It has that sort of cyberpunk feel to it that really fits the setting and is ever so slightly foreboding. It's just decent enough that it didn't get old during my time playing it, although your mileage may vary. I actually kind of like this particular genre of music. I also found that there's more general environmental interaction and writing in Der Geisterjäger that was substantially better and more involved than the previous entries in the series. There's more terminals and logs to look at, a little bit of snippets of day-to-day life that flesh out what the average person, not just the mech pilots, but the average day-to-day grind workers must feel in that kind of ruined world, stuck between corporations and kind of in a world gone terrible. And I do like that little touch. I found that the combat was relatively challenging as well, although I'm not so sure how I like the analyze option, at least how it was implemented. Many times, enemies would remain unidentified 2 or 3 rounds into combat. Even if I was outright slugging into them, I was still just getting that blank box. And since it takes a couple rounds to switch weapons, it takes 1 round to switch and then another to fire, that meant I'd have to waste a minimum of 2 to 3 rounds if I didn't get it the first time to try each damage type until I could analyze the target, or find some place to run back and forth out of sight of the enemy until the game decided, hey, you've identified it. I don't know if I was doing something wrong, if there was some sort of secondary scan option I was supposed to be using. It's probably my fault, but analyzing an unidentified creature just gave me no information, so if there's some way to speed identification, I didn't find it. I'm sorry, and I thus kind of suffered from that. The depth of improving various aspects of weapons and the few skills that your characters has actually gave it a little bit more of an RPG style than the previous iterations of the game I found, and I enjoyed how they were done in that regard. Overall, Der Geisterjäger is an evolution and slight improvement over the prior 2 entries in the series, and I did like those in their time. It's cleaner, it's easier to look at, and it's got a bit more depth into it all the way around. If you have played and enjoyed the prior 2 games, it offers more of the same, but improved in generally every way, just a little bit. Whereas if you're looking for an entry into the series, and you're somebody who liked more classic-style RPGs, I'd actually say this is probably your best entry point, because it has more customization and more depth than the prior offerings, while maintaining that minimalist look and style, and there's something to be said for that. I definitely think that it's worth the price of admission, though finding it on sale may be a bonus if you haven't played any of the others in the series. I'm actually looking forward to seeing where this developer does go forward. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday at Der Geisterjäger. As always, I'll put a link to where you can pick it up below, and I hope I've been pronouncing the names of these things right, although I'm pretty sure I haven't. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.